Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our official opening ceremony for the Terence A. Todman Conference Room. Thanks for coming to join us in person. And for those of you on the Zoom link, thank you for joining us. I was mentioning to the audience earlier that after our three speakers, please stay online, and we're going to have a camera person walk through the Todman. So with the curator, who you'll meet in a minute, giving you a view of it. So that'll be after the speaking portion of the program. And thank you for attending if you're online. With no further ado, Ambassador Mark Stanley.
This is a day of pride for me, and I want to thank you all for being here. When something comes from the idea stage to fruition, to honor as someone who made a difference in all of our lives, like Terence Todman, by standing up and doing what's right in the State Department, and we can honor him. It just makes me so proud that we can honor him. So I'm honored and privileged to be with you today to inaugurate our newly renovated Terence A. Todman Conference Room. This occasion pays tribute to the exemplary diplomat whose legacy continues to inspire all of us. And I don't know if you saw the PBS special on him, but you can go search it. But you look at this guy's life, it's remarkable. In November 2022, thanks to the great work of our own DEIA Council, we had a very special naming ceremony with then CDIO Gina Abercrombie Winstanley. And I like that name, Winstanley. I don't always win. But we had a conference room that was drab and we weren't doing anything with it. And we came up with this idea to dedicate it in the honor of Terence Todman. Today, I extend my heartfelt gratitude to the Buenos Aires facilities team, which did an amazing job, the team from the Bureau of Overseas Building Operations, and the Foundation for Art and Preservation for Embassies. These groups came together and did something remarkable. Their vision and dedication to this project edified our embassy. Their commitment transformed this room into a beacon of diplomatic excellence, one that we're proud to take our visitors in, one that we're proud to meet in. The Terence Todman Conference Room stands as a testament to the enduring legacy of Terence Todman, who served as Ambassador of Buenos Aires from 1989 to 1993. But if you walk through that room, you're going to learn a lot more about his career and the courage that one person took to change the world. Throughout his career, he exemplified the values of integrity, diplomacy, and cooperation. His unwavering commitment to human rights and cultural understanding, along with his successful efforts in support of racial equality, continue to resonate with us today. The courage it took to be a Black ambassador for the United States in 1969, the courage it took to integrate a lunchroom in Virginia in the 60s, it took a lot. As he said, he was, I think, one of only two Black Americans working in the State Department, I think is what he said when he was there in the 60s. He was a unicorn. It's not that way today, but we've come a long way. If you go to the Museum of Black History in Washington, take the time and learn. We've made a lot of mistakes, but we've come a long way too. And he was one of the pioneers that took us there. As you step into the newly completed Terence Todman Conference Room, you'll be greeted by this wonderful exhibit that Joe curated. It's not only a captivating display, but it's also a tribute to Terence Todman's life and work. From his early years to advocacy for human rights, each panel offers a glimpse into a remarkable career of a true trailblazer, someone who learned 6 languages. That's a remarkable mind. Terence Todman's impact transcends borders and generations. From his birth in St. Thomas, U.S. Virgin Islands, to his diplomatic endeavors across continents, Todman's legacy serves as a reminder of the power of dialogue and equality in our international relationships. His advocacy for justice earned him the Presidential Medal of Freedom in 1981, solidifying his place as a true champion of rights. I'm just curious, I know Jorge, who's taking pictures, worked here. Who else worked with Terence Todman in this room? Raise your hands. So we stand up because we have two of his friends from the Virgin Islands here. Stand up for a minute if you worked with Terence Todman, please. Come on. So I'm looking right now at about 8 or 9 people still at this embassy who worked with Terence Todman, and maybe with his two friends here who are Argentinos who knew him not from here, but from the Virgin Islands, I understand, who can tell stories about him. Jorge's got his camera afterwards in the conference room. If you can tell some stories about Terence. They called him the Viceroy here. He had a tremendous impact as a serious diplomat who accomplished a lot here in his 4 years in Argentina from 89 to 93. He also ran what's now called WHA under the Carter administration during the junta. And these were precarious times for the U.S.-Argentine relationship and precarious times for Argentina. And he was the person in charge, and really a very interesting time to highlight. He helped keep people alive here. I just had lunch with a guy named Bob Cox, who was the editor of the Buenos Aires Herald, who worked with the United States, a guy named Tex Harris and others who were doing reporting to keep people alive and working with the U.S. Embassy, playing a very key role in naming names and reporting what was actually going on here. And I know Terence Todman played a key role in that. So let us carry on and carry forward the spirit of Ambassador Todman every time we gather. May the conference room serve as a symbol of our shared commitment to diplomacy, cooperation, and diversity, equality, inclusion, and accessibility. I think it's great when we honor our colleagues who do well, who teach us, who inspire us, who lead us. And let us continue to build bridges and forge partnerships in their names and strive for a more peaceful and prosperous world. Thank you for being here to celebrate one of our own who taught us to do better. Thank you.
Thank you, Ambassador Stanley. Our next speaker is Joseph N. Jimmy, who's been with the State Department for over 10 years and currently serves as the Senior Curator in the Office of Cultural Heritage, which is part of the Bureau of Overseas Buildings Operations, OBO. Joe? Thank you, John.
Good afternoon, everyone. So this has been a long year, but I can't say I would rather be anywhere else than right here, right now, because the work is so important, and it's a country that's become so important to me. I'd like to start by expressing my gratitude and appreciation for everyone that helped in this project throughout the year, because without that, design is nothing. Design is important, but without all those helpful hands along the way, it never comes to be. Thank you, Ambassador Stanley, for your vision and commitment to art and culture that started last year with the Embassy Art Refresh and has come full circle to where we stand today with the Todman opening. I want to thank the Foundation of Art and Preservation and Embassies for their unyielding support and passion, as well as my good friend and colleague, Axel Aranda, for his knowledge, good humor, and experience as a logistics master. I'd also like to thank another dear friend, Marcela Clerico Messina, whose clever and bright nature never fails to disappoint. And those language skills recently didn't hurt either. And the team here in Buenos Aires, especially Maria Lucia Galindez and Daniela Reisner, and also Robert Boonhay. Art, like I said, is more than just design and creating moments. It's about logistics, teamwork, and scopes of work sometimes, and they can be struggles for artists, I think. Last but not least is the friends of Ambassador Todman and his family and colleagues, who are just too numerous to name here, but they've been throughout the year. Their guidance and enthusiasm does Ambassador Todman's legacy proud. That said, there is one person I would like to thank in that mix, Lorraine Criquet Molinar, I'm sorry. You kept my passion high and encouraged me during the struggles of the project. Thank you, Lorraine. So as with any exhibit, we have to ask ourselves, why did we do this exhibition? It's the first question any curator, someone in the art should ask. Why is this exhibit, A Life Less Ordinary, important to do? Why has Ambassador Todman's legacy endured? And for me, thinking about these, researching the man, it's that word legacy. What is the legacy that he left behind? These points of his define his character, his passions, and his loves. It seemed tied to everything that he did. So when you visit that room, think of it that way. There are legacy points on those walls. The first one is a legacy as a civil and human rights advocate. Ambassador Stanley mentioned this already, but I don't think it can be understated. He's one face in a sea of people where he was other, and that couldn't have been easy under the best of conditions, let alone the worst. In state, he's known for taking a stand on the agency's segregation record and making everyone around him embrace the future of equality. That's a big thing. This road was long and hard, but he never wavered or backed down from the tasks in front of him. Some of the freedoms many of us in state enjoy today were brought to us by Ambassador Todman. And this says nothing for the incredible human rights record he championed in South America and beyond. The second point, and the one that actually captured me just as much, was this legacy of language. It's already been hinted at, but everywhere he went, Ambassador Todman became a master of languages, which gave him an insight into culture on an intimate level. If it would be a Japanese, Hindi, Arabic, Spanish, Dutch, or even English, his use of native tongues made him a part of the place he lived in. And the very last point that you can find in that room is a legacy of culture. For me, when I studied the man, his life screamed a love of peoples and places, no matter what the scenario was. I find it so fitting he finished his career in service in Buenos Aires, because this place and country embodies so very much of the spirit of what Ambassador Todman leaves behind. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Joe. Our next speaker is Stacy Williams. Stacy currently serves as Chief of Staff in the Bureau of Budget and Planning. He began his career in the State Department as a presidential management intern in 1997 and has held civil service assignments in many, many different offices, including the Bureau of Western Hemisphere Affairs, front office, where he served also as Chief of Staff. For his novel approach to building and advancing a diversity and inclusion program in WHA, he received the Department of State's 2020 EEO Award. Stacy Williams, thank you.
Good afternoon, one and all. I am thrilled to join you today in honor of the inauguration of the Ambassador Terence A. Todman Conference Room. Let me first thank the Todman family for this shining example that Ambassador Todman shared to the world. Second, Ambassador Mark Stanley, thank you for your leadership and seeing this important initiative through to today's gathering. Third, thanks to Joe's diligence in building out and outfitting the conference room with Ambassador Todman's many achievements and accomplishments. Fourth, to my Argentine colleagues, I bring greetings from El Calafate, El Chatin, and the glaciers of Perito Moreno, as I was welcomed at every stop with a great smile and a welcome. I am from Louisiana, but you all have your own special Southern hospitality. And John Crippen, we started off together building a diversity council and the Bureau of Western Hemisphere Affairs, and now we reunite once again in honor of Ambassador Terence A. Todman. And I also see a few WHA Next Gen fellows, Tricia Ong in the crowd as well. Good to see you again. So I have many titles, but today, my title is Ambassador Todman's mentee. We had a special bond together, one that remains with me to this very day. If I may share this path we shared for nearly 15 years with you, as I have traveled great distances to be here today. So I came down and watched the movie Tenet again, and it was a very odd movie. But in the essence of today's presentation, I want to talk about our time and space together, because our stars did align at a certain point. So if I might call out a few years, I think that would help put this into perspective. The year was 1973. This was the year I was born. But Ambassador Todman was the ambassador to Guinea. But more importantly, he was a founding member of the Thursday Luncheon Group, which was officially inaugurated that year and became a platform for African Americans to support each other in their careers, but also reach back to the next generation. 1994, Ambassador Todman retires with the rank of career ambassador, the highest rank you can get in the Foreign Service, and he had a very distinguished career. 1997, I joined the State Department as a presidential management intern and was informed quickly by TLG leadership that I had to pay my membership dues and that I was to be expected to do a lot of work in TLG activities. Todman would travel to Washington often and would attend TLG events. He was indeed the patriarch of the organization and was eager to meet new TLG members like me. Imagine the patriarch of the family picking up me as a 5-year-old with only 5 years of experience and putting me on his shoulders as a newbie. When he would return to Washington, he would call me and say, "Stacy, I'm at the Marriott, come see me." He never once mentioned his time as an ambassador in any of his assignments. He basically said to me, "Where do you see yourself in the organization? What are your interests? What are your goals?" He was preparing my journey. 2002, Harry Thomas, Ambassador Davis, and Cheryl Hodge worked together to establish Pioneer Awards, recognizing the trailblazers within the membership. Todman was, of course, amongst those in the first cohort. My job in preparation was to share with him the run of show. When was he expected to give his remarks? And during the event, when he did give his speech, it was like E.F. Hutton. Everybody listened intently to Todman's remarks. 2003, I shared with Todman my plans to get married. He immediately said, "Stacy, you should honeymoon in the Virgin Islands." I think everybody here today knows my wife and I honeymooned in the Virgin Islands because Ambassador Todman said so. That trip brought Todman and I closer because I could share my observations of the place he called home and the pride he had in the Virgin Islands. 2005, Colonel Jim Dandridge and Ambassador Davis said, "Stacy, we need your help. We want to nominate Todman for the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People Spingarn Award." Jim Dandridge then shared with me a collection of photos, which you now have in the conference room. And I saw these photos of a man who spent time with presidents, with the King of Spain. I now had a better appreciation for this man who invested his time and interest in me. 2010, I am calling to the Operations Center to manage the humanitarian response to the earthquake in Port-au-Prince, Haiti. I don't know how Todman got word that I was in the Operations Center, but I got a phone call from Ambassador Todman, and he said, "Stacy, the department should send down light equipment to Haiti and train the Haitians how to use the equipment so they can take care of their own country." He passed along sage policy advice to me, which was spot on then as it is now. 2011, I am now the Thursday Luncheon Group president. They entrusted me with the organization. April Wells, who's a Foreign Service officer, she's my counterpart in the Office of Foreign Assistance, said, "Stacy, many Foreign Service officers in their first, second, and third tour spend time overseas, so they're not getting the wisdom and experiences from those who are retired, like Todman, and active senior officials. So we developed what we call a knowledge transfer initiative and included Todman along as a subject to be featured, of course. Imagine Todman and I in the basement of the Marriott, where I proceeded through about 6 to 7 questions, and my recording and writing what he was saying, and then transferring that over to typewritten, where I would email it to him, he would take a look. And back then we didn't have track changes. So he would call and say, "Let's go to question 5, paragraph 3, let's change this sentence." That was my interaction with Todman, but he answered each question with insights and effort to meet TLG members where they were. 2013, and this brings me to this photo. Ambassador Davis knows that this photo almost didn't happen. As president of the Thursday Luncheon Group, I noticed that all the commemoration events 20th, 25th, 30th had been held at military installations. I noted we should have the 40th anniversary in the Ben Franklin Room, which is one of the most impressive rooms in the world. Once we secured the room, Ambassador Davis says to me, and noting the significance of the venue, she asked me who should be the speaker. And then she said, Ambassador Terence Todman. I said, let's get him on the phone. After I pitched the idea to him, he quickly and immediately said, I'm sure you can find someone else. And my mother was in the car and she could tell that there was some friction with the conversation. So this continued on for about 10 minutes. And so for the 11th minute, I said, Ambassador Todman, how about you think about the offer and then you call me back? Lo and behold, 2 days later, he called me back and agreed to participate. He then had a few requests for me. Stacey, I need diversity statistics. I need to know who I should name in my speech to be honored during the remarks. And he had about 4 or 5 other asks. I immediately turned into Todman's staffer at that point. The event was simply magnificent. It was simply electric. And Todman once again was the star of the show. Once he concluded his remarks, which focused on increasing diversity within the State Department, I called him back to the stage to present him with the Lifetime Achievement Award for the Thursday Luncheon Group. This was me building the biggest stage to repay the man who invested so much in me. This legend, this kind man that I admired one last time, this was me putting him on my shoulders for all to see, even if briefly. This would be the last time that I would see Ambassador Todman as he passed the following year. At his memorial service, Mrs. Todman called me over and she presented me with one of Todman's writing pens that had his initials on it. She told me, he would have wanted you to have this. Thank you, Mrs. Todman, for all you have done to keep Todman's dream alive and well. Above all, I have benefited enormously from Ambassador Todman as he taught me how to live a life well lived. The question we all ask ourselves is, will anyone remember my name? The answer to that question is enclosed in our words and our deeds. Thanks to TLG member and TLG president, Yolanda Kearney and Miriam Safi, Todman's name is now affixed to the State Department's cafeteria in Washington, D.C. His name is affixed to the road leading from the airport to the City Center in St. Thomas, the U.S. Virgin Islands. And today, a conference room is in U.S. Embassy Port-au-Prince has his name and his accomplishments for all to see. Before there was a Mandalorian creed, Todman taught me this is the way. Thank you.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. This concludes the speaking portion of the program. As I mentioned before, you're welcome to stay seated and watch the tour. Joe is going to do a voiceover while we film it, but thank you, Ambassador. Thank you, Stacey. Thank you, Joe. If you're online, please stay online and wait just a minute, and then we'll switch over to the other camera. Thank you for your patience.
Thank you. And these are the 2 friends of Terence Todman. If you ladies want to say hello, wave your hand. This is
Hello, everyone. I'm Joseph Van Jemmy. I'm the Senior Curator from the Office of Cultural Heritage here for the maiden voyage of the Terence A. Todman Conference Room that I helped create with the team over the past year. The project started in many different ways, I would have to say, because of Ambassador Stanley first. He had the vision to realize it was an important project to follow. So I spent the last year researching, writing, and then eventually designing this exhibit around such an important figure in the Department of State. Out here, we have an introduction to who he was, and I called it a life less ordinary, because when I went through all the material, that's really what I thought of Terence Todman. He led this incredible life at pretty much every step, from the beginning of his career to the end, and even before growing up in that version. What I like to think we've created here is a voyage through Terence A. Todman's life that captures his earliest years, through his first days in state, through the last days in state, all of them that were highlighted here in Argentina as his last posting as an ambassador. As a designer, what I'm most proud of in this room is the use of all the language in here is his alone. None of it is mine. I think that I'm responsible for the color, the shape, the design, the imagery, but the language is his, which is really important to me, that it's his story, not just mine. I'm just helping tell that story that is his. And in this room, you'll see a variety of pictures of him throughout his life, from his youngest days as a student in high school to his days as a young service officer, as a foreign service officer, to where he went on to become an ambassador. All of these things kind of tell this one giant story. Early on in his career is what a lot of people think of Terence Todman, and that's his work with civil rights and human rights advocacy. I think that's what I was most impressed by, being one of two African-American faces in the State Department. I can't imagine how that felt to be other, to be someone else in a room where everyone else thought differently, looked differently, and was raised differently. You have to have this immense character to carry you through those moments. And we captured all that here. When he first joined the Foreign Service, he went to the Foreign Service Institute, which was in Arlington at the time, and there was no place for him to have lunch. It was still segregated. But Ambassador Todman was going to have none of it. And the words were wonderful. Someone said to him, other Black people have come through here before. They took it. And he said, that's fine, they took it, but I'm not going to take it. So he helped the State Department revision how important it was to embrace lots of different people. And I think we all today benefit from that. One of the spaces I'm most proudest of working in the arts is this one here. I kind of had this concept that being that one dark face in a sea of white needed to pull the room together somehow using an artistic credit. And I feel very good about it. The imagery is powerful. I think it pulls the room together in a really interesting way. And this wall here is a highlight of his career in a variety of ways. At first, I had a lot of pictures of him on the walls, and I said, wait a minute, that's too many. We can't have all these bubbles everywhere. So I tried to hone it down to some really important ones. There's Jacqueline Onassis Kennedy as First Lady. There's Richard Nixon as President. There's the King of Spain, and there's George H.W. Bush, 41st President of the United States. Also, I thought about when I created this that we needed a shape and a design of the planet because his mission was global. And I also used those little suns because it reminded me quite a bit of Argentina itself and the flag. We also backlit this. One of the things with any exhibition is things can't lay flat on walls. If things lay flat, people aren't going to pay attention. So we use backlit color and we use different colors, and things are raised off the wall to make it a little more appealing to the eye and makes the story that much easier. And so maybe not the last or the least important, but I have to say his language skills were the first thing that impressed me intensely. From when he was a serviceman and he learned to speak Japanese, to Spanish, more of a native language, to his use of Arabic, Hindustani, Danish, English. Apparently, wherever he went, he had a mastery of these languages. And to me, that many languages is just incredible. They're incredible moments that he used to become part of the culture he lived in. It's one thing to learn the language, but he took it that much deeper, using it to make friends and make partnerships that a real diplomat will be able to do. I think that this brings us kind of full circle back to the very beginning and the Impossible Dream from Man of La Mancha, his favorite poem. And we used it on the wall here in Spanish because I thought we are indeed in Argentina and we needed to capture the audience here. And that is my 2 cents for the tour of the Ambassador Todman Conference Room. Thank you, everybody. It's been a pleasure and an honor to help create this space.
Thank you, everyone. And if you're watching from afar, you're very welcome to come to Buenos Aires and see the room in person. It's really wonderful. Thank you for dialing in today. Thank you very much.